back, man. We're back for another episode of Reflections. Today's video is going to be a unique one, speaking about a different topic this time. But overall, it kind of links to mindset and how we should approach things. In today's video, which is unscripted, and I'll just be going off the dome, I'll be speaking about why you should have high standards for yourself. So without further ado, I'm your boy Abdurrahman, and this is episode 8 of Reflections.
I was just a young pathfinder, a street boy trying to leave that life behind us. How can I see options if I'm walking around blinded? There's angels in the ghetto, look how Allah came and find us.
So, high standards and that. Let's talk about the topic. And regarding this topic, I'm not speaking about a specific thing. I'm not speaking about high standards in a specific field of life, putting it on a specific category. I'm speaking about high standards in the general sense. High standards as a way of life, essentially, as a viewpoint that you look through. Always keeping high standards for yourself and the people around you. So what do I mean by this exactly? Essentially, we can look at it like this. If you hold others to high standards, what happens is, as a direct consequence, you are forced to hold high standards for yourself. You're forced to carry yourself in a set manner. And the interesting thing is, the more you set the bar higher for yourself, not stooping for something that's low, but rather aiming for the heights, aiming for the stars, one of two things happens. Firstly, even if you aim for the stars and you miss, you land on the moon. So it's imperative that you aim high in the first place, because when you aim high to begin with, even if you fall short, you're still hitting huge heights. Second thing I also want to reflect on is that if you look at us human beings and what makes us different to animals, it's the way we conduct ourselves. If you look at the animal kingdom, if an animal wants something, he just goes about trying to get that thing. Whereas a human being, because of his intellect, he doesn't necessarily just always go for something he can get. He uses his intellect to decide whether that thing is worth getting, whether it's going to cause him more harm than not. And then based upon that, using his intellect, he decides whether that is worth going towards. So essentially it's two things. Animals, basically, if you're looking at there's a lot of Islamic writing on this. Animals basically follow their desires. Whereas humans, we have transcended the animals and become much higher than them because of the fact that we use our intellect. And anytime we stray against that, and we go against that, and instead, like animals, we just follow our desires and do as we please, we become even worse than animals. We descend below animals, because whilst animals follow their desires, they didn't have the intellect that we possess in the first place to really reflect on whether the decisions they are making are worth making. That's the difference. Therefore, by holding yourself to a set standard in life in general, by carrying yourself in a set way, you essentially bestow honor on yourself. You transcend I don't mean that in like a spooky spiritual way, but haven't you noticed that the people that we respect the most are often those who say no to their feelings? Maybe feelings is not the right word, desires. Those are the people that we end up respecting the most because it shows a lot of strength, a lot of courage, a lot of character in order to go against your own inclinations of what you feel like doing versus what you should be doing or you think you should be doing. It's oftentimes people who show this ability to hold themselves to a set high standard, even if other people around them are not holding themselves to this standard, they still strive to hold themselves to this standard. I think one brief example could be, I'm not monetized yet, so this might still get me monetized, demonetized, whatever. It doesn't matter, I'm not monetized as it is. But if we look at Western culture towards intimacy, let's say, and it's not uncommon for a person at a young age to have multiple partners. So for a person to come about and say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this, instead, I'm gonna keep my virginity up until marriage, that person oftentimes is respected. So despite the societal pressure of being a set way, they go against that and rather hold firm to what they believe instead of what other people are telling them they should be doing, and instead choosing a way which they're turning away from their desires and their inclinations and instead turning towards the other side of trying to go through the path that they believe is honorable, that they believe is better, using their intellect and looking at which way is better for me to follow this route which society is heading towards and encouraging me to do, or go against it, and instead follow my beliefs, follow my intellect, and decide that I want to go against my own inclinations, my own desires, and instead choose a path that I believe is more honorable. Likewise, we can look at drinking alcohol or trying drugs or something along those lines. If a person has a belief that they're completely against taking illicit drugs, completely against drinking alcohol, etc., and they hold firm to that, despite the pressure that other people may bestow upon them, but holding firm to their belief and holding firm to that standard which they set for themselves. So a person should always strive to hold themselves to the highest standards, because we as humans are honored because of the fact that we do not follow whatever we feel, but rather we follow that which is best for us. And amongst us humans, we distinguish ourselves based upon how much we follow what we feel like doing versus what we should be doing. And oftentimes you will find that the things which are hardest to achieve are inevitably the things which give you the most reward. So that's the first thing I want to establish. And the second thing is, and I've mentioned this briefly, but I'm not saying high standards in one category. Let's say high standards in your grades, or high standards in your relationships with people, your friendships. Not hanging around just people who do nothing all day, who are negative, who put other people down by saying, no, I'm above that and I cannot hang around these people. Not in an arrogant sense, but like I said, We as humans are honored. When a person goes against that, and you still surround yourself with those type of people, you are the people that you are around. Birds of the same feather flock together. Therefore, you become one of those people. Similarly, and this is the point I was trying to get to, when you hold yourself to high standards and you hold the people around you to high standards, so you won't just befriend any old person. So you're not going to befriend a person who's lazy, who does nothing in their lives, who's negative, who goes around insulting people, putting other people down. If you are not going to go around befriending such a person, because that's the standard you hold yourself to, and you hold other people to, what happens is you are forced in a way to ascend above that. So now you can't be lazy, you can't be negative, you can't go around insulting people, putting people down, or else that becomes your circle. So it's imperative that you hold yourself to high standards and in a way hold other people to high standards, because in that way you ensure that the bar you set for yourself, even if you fall short of it sometimes, is still high enough to the point where you're still progressing in your life. So therefore, the reason I am saying you must aim high, it's not just for the purpose of aiming high. It's because if you don't aim high and you don't aim at all, inevitably you fall. So you must aim high. You must hold yourself to a set standard of how you conduct yourself. And also expect that from others too. You can't allow yourself to be treated like dirt. Or else what happens is you start to feel like you're dirt yourself. Despite the fact, like I said, human beings are honored. There's a reason why human beings are the ones that rule the animals, despite the fact that the lion can tear us up into shreds. There's a reason for that. It's because we're honored. Therefore, recognize that within yourself. Get yourself to the point where you have high self-esteem. And you look at yourself in a manner that you should be looking at yourself, with pride, not in the way that you're better than people, but if you just truly reflect on how blessed you are to even be alive. If you look at how the probability of you being alive in the first place is being so incredibly low, the very fact that you're alive is beautiful. If you look at the stats, it's basically a miracle. But we're surrounded by miracles on a daily basis, so it becomes normal to us. But that still doesn't mean it's not amazing. It's amazing in every single way. And likewise, so are you. Therefore, you must hold yourself to a high standard. And the problem is, a lot of people don't hold themselves to high standards because their entire lives they've been put down. So I'm the one right now who's telling you, you must hold yourself to high standards because you're high to begin with. Your ranking is high. And likewise, we cannot be hypocritical in this regard and develop an ego from this, because there are scenarios where you look around and a person may say, for example, if we shift this to marriage, that they would want their future wife to be XYZ, have these incredible qualities, and if she doesn't hold them, then I don't want her. When in reality, the very person who would say such a thing, they don't hold any of these qualities themselves. So they want her to be amazing, but they are bottom shelf in every single way. That's not fair in the slightest. Therefore, when I'm saying hold yourself to high standards, expect high standards from other people, you must hold yourself to high standards to begin with. That was the first thing. Hold yourself to high standards. So when you hold yourself to high standards, you can expect that from others. When you're respectful to people, expect respect back. If they're not giving you respect back after you being respectful, they can go their way, because you're holding yourself to that set standard and you expect that set standard from other people. Likewise, in the scenario I just mentioned, this person wanted X, Y, Z qualities from his wife or from his future wife, whatnot. Meanwhile, he didn't possess any of those qualities. Whereas if he did possess those qualities, he's got every right to ask for those qualities back. Therefore, you must be just in this. So when you say you hold yourself to high standards and hold other people to high standards, do both simultaneously. You cannot do one or the other. So that's an important point to not forget. So in closing, make sure you do two things. You establish these two things and you hold firm to these two things. First and foremost, you hold yourself to a high standard. And you carry yourself in that manner. Once you do that, you must expect that from other people. Not in a way where you meet a person and you expect them to be amazing, because that's just a recipe of disaster. That's just going to lead you to endless disappointment. But what I mean by that is, if you go around treating people in a very good manner and they treat you like dirt, you must push them away, because that's the standard that you set for yourself. You do not tolerate disrespect. You do not tolerate being treated in a negative manner, because you make sure that you set a standard where if people treat you in a set manner, they must get pushed aside. That's what I mean by setting high standards for other people as well. So that was my closing points. I've been your boy Abdurrahman. Salam.
إن أردتم أن تكونوا شامة بين الورى فاقتفوا آثار جيل للمعالي سطرا. إن أردتم أن تكونوا شامة بين الورى فاقتفوا آثار جيل للمعالي سطرا.